And you're always exactly, and it drives me crazy when I go back to Lubbock. I haven't lived there in 18 years, and I'll go back and someone will tell me where something is, and they'll try to tell me how to get there. And just tell me the address. What is the number and the name of the street? And it's I can count and ABC. But I think in a similar way, it gives you a very essential concept of space without any of those other. There's no mountain there to look at, to ponder. And so in a lot of ways, I think that maybe to what my subject was is why there might be an unusual amount of really interesting artists who see things in a different way coming from there, is because there is that space to fill up that you really are having to project what you see there. Or if you think it's ugly, you do what you think is pretty and put it there. And so I think a lot of space is fictional, and it's an abstraction of what is in your head. But it is obviously a huge function is the real geography of it. But because space can be fictional and actually be in a computer, it is an abstraction completely of all those different things.
Would you mind if I read an excerpt from the Durham?
No, go ahead if you don't mind.
This has been sticking with me ever since I read it. The feeling I had many of those nights in Lubbock was not as constructive as the daylight Lubbocky feeling. He talks earlier about waking up feeling all Lubbocky.
I didn't have another word for that.
It was the impossibility of remaining inside those four walls, a compelling need to see what was going on beyond, a hunger to know who else roamed out there in the night and discover what was going on in their heads, a need to connect, communicate, and experience, a lack, a need caused by the dry void of the night air, a need for something, anything. The external force is similar, I assume, to what would happen physically if an astronaut were to step naked out of the space station. The astronaut's organs and body cavities would explode because the vacuum he has stepped into needs to be filled. The astronaut would be pulled apart from the outside in. This feeling, this pulling feeling, sucking out the energy of one's soul through the eyes and ears and feet and groin, this compelling force from where, is what I am feeling those long, windy nights in Lubbock. Nature abhors a vacuum, and Lubbock wants what's inside of it. How better can you describe that?
Yeah, and really, in 1985, my dad handed me an article that Molly Ivins wrote that was about an exhibit that was happening in San Francisco. I don't think it was Tim Brown and some other folks. But it was a Lubbock artist, and they called her as an expert on all things Texas. And like, why are there so many people from Lubbock? And that might have been the first time I really thought about it. And she basically said that she felt sorry for all those people in San Francisco whose parents were so understanding and encouraging and everything. Because in Lubbock, they basically told you what it was you were not supposed to do. And like all the rock stars and jazz musicians and country musicians felt free to go ahead and do it. Whereas otherwise, you might not have as much guidance on what was right or wrong. Basically, like they teach you how to sit, and if you're committed to sitting, you can get really good at it.
Great. Okay. So, Megan, I think I almost want to ask you to answer the second part of the question.
I was going there anyway.
Good, that's great, because
I can't help but do that.
yeah, I'm really interested, and I'm so glad that you agreed to be on the panel, because I am so interested in the potential creation of a place. How do we collectively achieve that, or can we? I mean, is it something that we can foresee and plan, or is it always an organic process, or is it a combination of the two? And so, if you could maybe just address that in terms of Austin, your city.
And it's interesting that you're focusing on rural and everyday, and my work in public art, I'm focusing on the urban, and it's mostly civilized. I mean, it's really civilization. But just recently, I went to a conference and was fortunate to hear Judy Baca speak, and she very much talks about place and sees it as a construct of a mountain. So at the bottom is nature, and it's untouched, and it's raw, and there's no inhabitants. And then as you move up the mountain, then there's civilization, and then cultures come and they mix together. And then at the top is where it's more warm, people have tread. And I think it encompasses both of those those binary arguments in terms of it's one and the same. It's hard to pull them apart. So, and if you're not familiar with Judy Baca, she did the Great Wall of Los Angeles and founded the Social and Public Art, I think it's Coalition. But if you're not familiar with the Great Wall, it was a river running through Los Angeles, and the powers that be of the city dammed it up and concreted its walls, and it separated a Latino community, and it was like what she references, hardening of the arteries, and really separated a community. And so the healing was this group coming together and doing, it's a mile long, doing a mural on those concrete walls, and so it brought community back together and it engaged them. So thinking about, and I want to also address this idea of sort of public, I think, what were you saying, city planning and public. And also at the beginning when you mentioned that what about place informs works, artwork, when public art is somewhat of a dichotomy in that we want to highlight artists and their exploration and their study and make it available to a more broad general public. But it's a misperception, I think, that that somehow it's homogenized because it's government. Because working in this field, I'm the art bureaucrat of this group. Multiple communities coming together, sort of the U.S. is a petri dish. We've got all of these cultures, and somehow we're talking kind of unification, and we're all one voice, when all it really has done is perpetuate and make more prideful various cultures who then, so we celebrate those. And so place, for me, is very fluid in terms of all of those mountain layers and communities that come together, the definition of community being very fluid, that when we're commissioning a work of art, the dichotomy is that we're trying to reflect, the art is now trying to reflect all of these multiple communities, and it becomes homogenized because we've got so many voices that are coming together. And I think when there's conflict, it arises from ego, because everybody's place is constructed from self, and it overlaps, and place has a different meaning for everyone. And so I think when something becomes an issue, I think it's generated from an ego who believes that their place is somehow more important than everybody else's. But the dichotomy, this is getting me to think about it a lot, because so often, like public architecture and city planning, again, trying to accommodate so many voices that we hope, if it's successful, creates an identity for the city. Like Lubbock, you were talking earlier about how it was a Walmart or something, how some cities it wipes out kind of the homegrown, the people, the character, whereas others people don't want to lose that sense of community and that sense of personal relationship. We're always seeking that, and I have to bring in your work a little bit because because I was thinking about this in that context. What I found compelling was the fact that I wanted to look in the window, because it's about a relationship with another. You don't know who that is, but you find yourself in that place, not just from you alone, but from what might be on the other side of the window, or the tracks on the carpet. Someone's been there, and it's just more engaging when you think about yourself in the context of others.
Well, I think that's really important, and that's something that I'm always very excited to think about. That kind of just leads into all these ideas. Public work or the planning of place sometimes, or even like the corporate restaurant that comes into a little town comes with its intact identity and prescribed experience, right? Here is this prefab coffee house, and we'll have this joyous experience and feel, good by the time we leave. But that certainly experience of place is not singular. It cannot be, it has to be individual. And we can certainly share experiences of the Sublime, the Grand Canyon. I mean, I don't know one person that doesn't know that. Individual or collected experiences, things that grow organically. Like, I came across so many references to like the cow path. And the doorknob piece for me came out of remembering as a kid moving through a museum and seeing that bronze statue with the shiny nose that everybody touches, but nobody knows that everybody else touches it until the nose is shiny. It's like a cow path, right? Somebody has to be the first person to walk that, you know, against the sidewalk and cut across a lawn. Some person has to be the first person to touch that secretly. And so then the collective, we all then share this experience that nobody prescribes for anybody else. So I really love those dialogues between those things. And
it's interesting that you talk about the cow path because it's impossible not to avoid them.
Once you see them.
Well, no, but even like the planners of the sidewalks, inevitably, no matter how much you think about, there's going to be a cow path somewhere else.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and then I know in Palo Alto there's cow paths, and so the school starts to build a sidewalk there, and inevitably another one pops up somewhere else. Eventually, just pave the whole thing. Something, and I don't know what that means.
So do you know? And then my question is about larger planning. I mean, city planning, grand planning, and I think sometimes city planning and public art really needs to be separated from developmental planning. You know, gated communities or shopping malls or things where we really are. We have to subscribe to this experience, and we have to park there and walk there and go through that entrance. But do we continue to kind of fight against that a little bit or rail against that collectively without knowing it, or are we more specific about trying to fight for this organic growth of the place and romanticize the senses of it?
I think it goes back to that pride. It happens individually, but it happens as a group too, wanting to be the best city. And so we have to have the best identity. So ours is going to be organic. And so in doing that, we want to make improvements. I think it's that point of where does everybody agree? Right? There's some extremes, but you wind up in this sort of middle place that it's that group. You have to agree on something. So I think what you need to do is have do the not the bourgeois, but the other
the derive.
Yes, where the city is being constructed, and gives a construct there, and it's based on so much public input that there needs to be the opposite reaction where people are fighting against that and creating a new experience in a new place.
Which kind of
again, it's very
leads me to my second aspect, because what she's talking about is when I was reading and traveling a little bit, one of the things I'm hooked into was the time that I spend in my studio, which is mimicked by this window over here. I was constantly looking out the window onto in Tallinn, Estonia, looking at it. It's amazing, these 11th century church spires, and I thought, why? No matter what the weather is out there, why would I want to stay in here? And so I would, no matter what, bundle up, put on my ear flap, hat, boots, and I would go out and I would walk. I would just pick a direction without a map, and I would just go. And so walking, as experiencing a place or knowing a walked landscape is a known landscape, that it began to increase my comfort level in doing so. So I started reading a little bit about the Situationists International, who were artists in France when Paris was becoming a little more, modern and bourgeoisie, and so a lot of the working class were being pushed out to the peripheries of Paris and put into these high-density living. And so a lot of the artists and working class would rail against this movement, and so they would participate in these day-long or a few day-long activities of the drift, called the derive, and they would subject themselves out onto the landscape. And no matter what the structure, the plans or the rules you're supposed to follow of the working day, and this is the plaza where everybody cuts across, or at this time, rush hour, we all go down this street, that they would subject themselves out onto the landscape and really rail against it and do everything they could to alter it in a way, alter their experience of it, and therefore the people